Well, welcome everybody. How's it going? This is the RambleCast. It is April 2nd, 2025. I'm your host, Cody Toombs, and with me I've got Corbin Davenport.
Hello.
And hello to Brawl and Austin in the chat. Good to see you guys here.
Hello.
So, uh, not even going to turn this into a topic, just going to quickly acknowledge we were just talking about TV shows, and I said, having so far only watched the first episode, Dexter, new or sorry, not I was about to say New Blood, but Dexter Original Sin, so far, pretty good, liking it. Anyway, Brawl, planning on falling asleep but struggling. Dude, go to sleep. It's okay.
Go to sleep. I'm gonna go to sleep right now.
Yeah, fair warning. We're
I
not going to say a lot of interesting things.
I am very sleepy today, but it's mostly my own fault as usual. But yeah. Um, speaking of our own fault, maybe.
I don't know that I would. Okay, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. So there's more things happening with TikTok because when the new U.S. administration entered office, they gave TikTok was briefly banned, and then there was an executive order that brought it back. Except not really, it because the law is still on the books. It was just like we promise we won't sue any companies hosting or distributing TikTok, basically. So that's what's been going on now. And they were given until April 5th to figure out something that would comply with the original law, which was that TikTok was supposed to divest itself from ByteDance, its owner, based in China. Um, you know, presumably meaning selling the entire company to a U.S. firm or just the U.S. part, but it's not clear how that would work. So since then, a bunch of companies and rich people have thrown their hat into the ring for buying TikTok. There was some news today. Yes, today. Just checking that today is in fact today. That Amazon submitted a bid to purchase TikTok. I believe that would be the whole app. I'm not sure, or just its U.S. operations. Either way, that one would be kind of that would actually probably make the most sense if we were treating this like a legitimate business operation, because TikTok's primary purpose now is to sell cheap garbage, which is exactly what Amazon loves to do.
Cheap, overpriced garbage.
Yes, and TikTok Shop seems like it's been a pretty decent competitor to Amazon in terms of the cheap garbage. To the point where Amazon launched its own, that and Temu. I kind of, in my head, they exist in the same space, but I know they operate slightly different. And also Amazon, of course, owns Twitch, so there could be some opportunity for duplicating or merging Twitch functionality into TikTok, because TikTok does have live streaming.
I
So
I know that it's certainly a possibility, and being that it's Amazon, nothing is exactly off the table. But honestly, if they do get it, I would be shocked if that happens. Largely because Twitch is, I don't think they would want to bring TikTok down by integrating Twitch into it, or vice versa. Twitch is kind of like anti-successful.
yeah, and I was trying to find. I thought there was something newer about the TikTok stuff, but it doesn't look like there is. It's just more like Republicans saying stuff. Um, but I mean, like I still have no idea what will happen with this. I don't. I'm not even gonna pretend to like say like I think I know what's going to happen or what is likely, because it doesn't really make any sense. It's just very plainly a power play with the current U.S. administration. They're going to keep pushing for dumb stuff. Um, I the only thing where I'm like I don't see it happening is selling off the entirety of TikTok. I think that one I'm pretty sure like will just not happen. Like
So, as I see it, there are three TikToks to discuss.
right,
There is the U.S. operations, there's the international operations, and then there's the Chinese version of TikTok. In other words, there's
right,
been two TikToks this whole time, the one in China and the one that's everywhere else. I think the one in China is obviously going to stay in China, like plain and simple. There's no reason to think otherwise. What happens with the international version is obviously the question mark. And to be honest, I have I've had my doubts about this for a long time because I've never understood how it would work where you're still going to have one company running a version of TikTok that is basically the rest of the world, and then one version that is just for the US.
right.
So,
And,
and part of that obviously comes down to just silly little things like the domain name and the app, and like which app gets served to which group and stuff like that. But it also has never made sense to me on the basis of you could have somebody who's, let's say, just posting videos from the US. Would their only market be people in the US? Would they have to upload their videos to two completely separate services, both called TikTok, so that they can also have an international audience? Are their views then split between the two? And
Microsoft should buy it because then they can do TikTok and then TikTok parentheses new.
Yes. Oh, Google would do that too.
Yeah. Please migrate from the legacy TikTok.
But yeah, and that's just describing one side of this. There's obviously then how does this work for viewers, especially those outside the US? Do they because the ones in the US would presumably not be allowed to get the international version that would still be run by a Chinese company, I'm guessing. So would international people then be able to get the US version and the international version just so they can follow creators from both? Like, none of this makes sense from a, like, how a social network or content network, as this kind of really is, how that works makes no sense anymore if they split that up. So I have hope that this doesn't just go for that.
TikTok switches to Activity Pub, and then the international TikTok and the US TikTok become federated servers. That could kind of work, but it would be really dumb.
It literally couldn't, because the financials of trying to run multiple channels with view counts that would go to different suppliers, all that stuff falls apart instantly. So yeah,
like that's why the only thing I feel confident in predicting is that the entirety of international TikTok will not be sold to a US company. I don't think ByteDance would go for that. As long as like most of the users are not in the US, like there's a lot of other countries that they can still have a user base of if the US bans them permanently. So that's really the only one where I'm like pretty sure it wouldn't happen. Everything else, like trying to split off the US operations into an independent network, maybe. I think the most likely scenario, if I was gonna try to guess this, which again I don't even really feel that confident about, would just be like a bunch of US companies get a sweet deal on partial ownership of the US part of TikTok, which, like Oracle gets 20% or something, and they spin up more US servers and they do more lip service like they did. I think that was during the first Trump administration when they did the whole like we're building
that was
Oracle's server farms here, and we have our transparency office or whatever. So I could see something like that happening again, but beyond that, I have no idea. It really just seems to be vibes.
Yeah, pretty much. So that being said, first off, I'm going to take my little micro victory lap on being half right. Because at one point there was obviously the rumor that Jimmy Donaldson, aka Mr. Beast, had either had already submitted a bid or was going to, or maybe was talking about it, and depending on who you asked, there was like multiple people all saying yeah, it kind of happened, maybe it didn't, and it was constantly back and forth. But apparently he and his backer, who is Jesse Tinsley, apparently they have submitted a bid, and at the time I suggested, it would make a lot of sense that Mr. Beast would work with Amazon to submit a bid. Well, I was half right that Amazon would ultimately submit a bid, just it doesn't seem to involve him. I guess they're just competing against each other on this. That being said, to be honest, out of all of the bidders, the only two that I kind of want to see get a chance at this is Amazon and Microsoft. Anybody else I think is a bad owner for TikTok. And
I mean, both of those sound pretty off.
yeah, they're both pretty bad.
Amazon famously has not really figured out how to make money with Twitch.
Yeah.
And Microsoft. Ooh.
Yeah, Microsoft's ownership of LinkedIn has demonstrated that they should not own social networks at all.
Oh man, the linkedification of TikTok would be a sight to behold. That would be pretty incredible. Like the
incredibly depressing.
The worst takes humanity has ever created will happen in that app, and I will not be party to them.
I can claim already that I'm barely party to anything on TikTok, so that's easy for me. But
yeah, again, they banned my account after I did nothing, so I used TikTok. I opened a TikTok account. I followed a couple people. I didn't leave any comments or really do anything except follow 3 accounts. I was going through it, and then it was like, "Oh, your account's deleted." I was like, "Okay."
I mean, in all fairness, Twitch did that to me, so yeah. Neither of these companies have a good track record for this.
I don't know what set it off. Maybe I had accidentally left my VPN on or something. I don't know.
Honestly, yeah. After we talked about it last time, I'm pretty sure it was the VPN thing. But yeah, the thing is, every other organization that has submitted bids that we're aware of, it's either somebody who very much could not realistically run the company very effectively, Mr. Beast being my immediate go-to example of this, but also Perplexity. Let's see, the Shark Tank guy, Kevin O'Leary. There were a few others. I'm looking for.
I'm pretty sure, but Larry Page is in there somewhere. Well, that is Oracle. Yeah, I think
that's Ellison. Larry Ellison, not Larry Page.
Oh yeah.
Larry Page is a little
Google
more okay.
Guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Him and Sergey Brin.
One of the Larrys.
Yeah, Larry Ellison, I don't think he has personally submitted a bid. I think Oracle has submitted the bid. Um which, yes, I know separating the two is a bit nitpicky, but technically it is a thing. One thing that gets me is Trump has said, and I don't know if this is true, but it's concerning if it is. Trump has said that he gets to pick the winner of this bid and buyout plan. Which, dear God, I hope that's not at all true, because it seems like the owner of the company should probably be the one who gets to choose who to sell to. That is problematic if Trump is somehow inserting himself that deeply that he gets to choose which American company gets to buy this thing. And as it stands, and I brought this up back when we first started talking about this, strictly speaking, the law did not require that TikTok be sold to an American company. It required that it be sold so it's no longer owned by a Chinese company.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't understand why we don't have like some foreign, some European company jumping up and being like, hey, right here, we'll do this. I know Trump would certainly try to block that, but that I think would have been a much better outcome in all likelihood, because it would solve in all likelihood that international issue that we've obviously highlighted. And I have a feeling ByteDance would have actually been more willing to work with a company that's not US based. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just feels like it's not going to work out well for this to go to an American buyer.
No, I mean, if we were pretending like this is like a legitimate normal thing, like there's no reason why it couldn't be like a European company buying it, or even just like a business association of like US and European. If the issue here was like, oh, we need like the balance, the countries balanced against China to own part of TikTok, then like that would work too. But we're doing the protectionist economy speed run here, and all countries except the US are evil, so they can't touch it.
Yeah, so this whole thing just still feels like such a farce, bordering on a scam. I mean, how? I'm sure this. Actually, I'm trying to think. Has this ever happened in the past where a single country is like, you know what? We don't like somebody else owning a thing that's in a completely separate country. We're just going to say you have to sell it to us. I'm not familiar with this really having happened.
Well, that has happened in all the countries that rebelled against like colonialism, or like all the countries that switched governments, and they were like, oh, I see like all the like Central American countries that are like, oh, I see, the U.S. Farm Company owns 80% of our land.
Okay,
let's nationalize that.
I'm not going to dispute that. Yes, that is technically a thing that kind of is the same, but I think we can also safely argue it's definitely not the same.
I agree. It's very different in that TikTok does not matter.
That too.
In the same degree. Like we were talking about, like, granted a major communication channel, but it is a smartphone app. And not like usually the companies that get nationalized in those kinds of government changes, like I think usually those are like natural resources mostly. I know there's some other cases of like Yeah, I'm reading. I'm trying to get through a very long book about Eastern Europe after World War II, and it was talking about like the all the Eastern Bloc countries switching to communist governments, and a lot of it was also like, yeah, this factory was owned by like whatever government was here before or some international ones, and now it's ours now. But they're making the same thing, so like it does happen, but like definitely not with something like this. It's just very bizarre.
Yeah. So, and I think kind of as a, well, at least it's the last thought I really had on this subject so far. But I think what we're also closing in on is the point where a lot of TikTok creators, I think, don't care nearly as much this time. When it went dark for 12 hours before, people freaked out, like lost their minds over it. This time, uh, with the ban coming up, I think one, a lot of people have come to terms with the fact it can actually happen. And two, a lot of people I think have now kind of been pushing for their fans and viewers to, find them elsewhere. Go to YouTube, go to Instagram, go to wherever. And so now that people have kind of realized, hey, we should diversify. We should spread our audiences out. I think what we're seeing is, like, if TikTok were to close shop in the US, like if this ban goes through, I think, yes, there will be a ton of people who are furious. They will absolutely blame Trump, which that part I love. Uh, but I think a lot of people will also get over it very, very quickly. And assuming that the ban lasts for more than, say, 24 hours, I, sure, people will freak out again, but I think it's going to be much smaller. And I think a lot of people will just be fully over it after like 2 weeks. And if the ban ever reverses or if a sale goes through sometime in the future, I don't think it'll matter anymore. I really think that this will just be like, one day there were people using MySpace, and then all of a sudden it's, yes, all of a sudden it's like a year later, but about a, all of a sudden no one's using MySpace anymore. No one missed it. No one cared. Everyone had moved to Facebook, or, well, mostly just Facebook. And that was it. Like, that was the end of the discussion. No one cared. No one missed MySpace. And I think that would kind of happen with TikTok. People miss it for 2 weeks, and then it'll just be, you know what? Okay, we've gotten used to watching stuff elsewhere, and that'll be the end of it. Am I? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think there'd be?
I think for like average users, probably it would go something like that. I think it would mostly matter for the people that have built up an audience on TikTok or try to use it for revenue, like they're selling stuff on the shop or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, TikTok, just like all these other big social platforms, do make it very difficult to get your audience off to another platform. Like, move the people off.
With very
So
careful, I just like to point out, with very careful editing, I think it would be funny just to have you saying other platforms make it very hard to get your audience off, and just cut it right there, which then leads to a perfect moment to point out, no, that's not true. OnlyFans is a fan of helping people with that. But anyway, sorry, I just had to get that out of my head.
had to get it off.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
I think it would mostly just be like the people who have built up big audiences on there and are having difficulty moving that somewhere else.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, for sure. Anybody who is predominantly on TikTok, and really that's where their entire audience has been, even if they've been pushing as hard as possible to get people to move off of TikTok or at least follow them elsewhere, I am sure that those people will at best get maybe 5 to 10% of their viewership from TikTok to actually follow them on shorts or reels or whichever. But, you know, it, it's unfortunate for them. I get that, but I I think if you're successful enough on TikTok, you probably will be able to restore a lot of that elsewhere. It'll take time, it'll take some work, but a lot of people probably will be able to recover. That said, I'm sure there will be some portion that just they never will. Their audience, their brand, everything like that on TikTok will just go with TikTok if it doesn't stick around.
Yep, and it's been I think this has been the big lesson for anyone trying to build an audience in the past couple of years is you are not safe on one platform.
No.
You have to be on several of them. This is what I know I'm right there with everyone who's like, I'm sick and tired of everywhere I go I'm getting a pop-up to put in my email address. But like that's what they're doing to bypass all this. Like that is the direct channel that is left when social media, deteriorates and down tries to get you to never leave the app to do something else. So sucks. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with TikTok. I'm sure something really dumb and unexpected will happen. And I don't have a transition, but Plex got an update.
Well, something dumb and unexpected.
It was expected, but
well,
maybe
okay.
not. Maybe not the extent of how dumb it was expected.
Okay, I'll go with you on that.
Yeah. So last year, Plex announced that it was working on new apps for mobile and TV platforms. The main reason they gave, which makes perfect sense to me, is just that they want to update the design and they want a single code base for all platforms, which is what everyone's doing, and it makes sense in Plex's case because if you go to their website, they have apps for like 20 platforms. They've got all the mobile devices, they've got all the desktop apps, which granted now those are web views, so not that impressive. But they've also got like the separate PlexAmp apps for mobile and desktop, and they've got apps for every game console and every smart TV platform thing, which are also like mostly web apps, but it still like works somewhere. So like unifying all that makes sense to me. And they also said that they were going to move like media, like photo and video upload and music playback out of the main Plex app on phones. So there's now a separate Plex Photos and app for the photo stuff and Plex Amp for music, which Plex Amp has been around for a couple of years now, and it was already the better music experience, so that's fine. They just said like no one's really using this in the main app, so it's more work, and I was like, that makes sense, sure. So they started testing the mobile apps last year, and this week they started rolling them out, and people are not happy. Last year, I work at How to Geek, and one of the big topics that does the numbers over there, so I've had to throw myself into the world of this, is Microsoft Outlook. And Microsoft Outlook did a big update on Windows last year where they, introduced a new web-based Outlook that had a bunch of missing features, and it made everyone mad. And Microsoft, very slowly kept adding, this is just how it goes now, is you roll out the new app that's rewritten, and it's better in a lot of ways, but also worse in a lot of other ways. And then you spend a bunch of time adding those missing features back in, and people are still upset because they don't want to move. So Plex just did that again. The new, so my disclosure is that I don't think I have the new app yet. I'll check again, but they're doing a slow rollout of it. and I'm on iPhone, so I can't like sideload an APK, and I haven't cared enough to go dig out an Android phone to try this out on. But the new app, in terms of what it's supposed to do, it has a updated design that's a lot more like streaming service apps now, where it's kind of got like the larger artwork on movies and TV shows when you open it. There's a lot more focus on like the social stuff that I don't really care for. They're very clearly trying to turn Plex into more of a almost like an IMDb or a letterbox type thing, where you can have friends and see each other, what other people are watching and rating and that kind of thing. So I don't really care for that, but it is there. And I've seen a lot of comments that are like, oh, they're just deprioritizing all of your own media library. Like Plex is getting away from what it was meant for. And again, I've not used the app, but I don't think that's true, based on like the screenshots and everything I've seen from Plex and people who are using it. Like it's still just a tab to look at your own library and switch between it. So they rolled this out, and there's been a lot of complaints about some missing features. There's like I saw one comment that was like, the screen reader on my iPhone can't see a lot of the buttons, so they didn't figure out the accessibility stuff. There's a couple missing features that are supposed to come back. Actually, let me open my article, because I took forever trying to figure out what exactly changed. So in terms of what's missing, there's no vertical episode lists. They're adding quick access to media libraries on the home tab. You can't download entire seasons of shows right now. They're going to add that. Scheduling DVR recordings is not in there yet. I saw there's issues with casting that are still being worked on. So there's stuff like that, and then there's also all the usual complaints. I believe the new app is React Native. So there's all the usual complaints you would get from a new React Native app, which is like the scrolling is really weird, and like sometimes it takes a long time to load for no reason, and sometimes it gets stuck and it freezes and it crashes. So that kind of stuff. So they just did the thing that we've seen a bunch of tech companies do, where they have good intentions, like their reasoning and their justification for making a new app that could be unified across everything makes sense to me. And they were working on it, and at some point they had a deadline. It's just like, we need to move people to the new thing now. We need to rip off the Band-Aid. And just like many of the other times this happens, they clearly did that too early. This was not done yet. So it's annoying. I saw there were also like, this removed one feature that lets you like set a custom address for a Plex server, and apparently that was being used as a workaround for remote streaming if you didn't have Plex Pass. So people were mad about that, but that's kind of just, I don't, you gotta pay for Plex Pass if you want that feature. I don't know, that's what to tell you. But I think they definitely should not have rolled this out now. They definitely should not have done it at the same time they're raising Flex Pass pricing and changing their pricing structure for streaming. There's a lot of self-inflicted damage that didn't need to happen. I don't think the world would have ended if they gave this another 2 months. I don't know, 2-3 months. Probably would have been a lot better. At least some people would have forgotten about the Plex Pass thing, or do the Plex Pass thing after the app is done. I don't know. I'm not a business major. I just feel like this could have been done a little bit better.
So I'll say out of the gate, as someone who does not already have Plex Pass, I have been, with the price going up, I'm kind of thinking, should I throw money at this and get it, because I suspect, or I'd like to think that Plex Pass is going to gain some new features and value that, that it'd be worth getting it. Uh, and at the same time, I'm seeing this happening, especially since the price increase discussion. And part of me is thinking, is it possible that the price increase was really just a cash grab before they break everything and try to refocus the app into being something else? Certainly, like finding other ways to monetize it. And is now the right time to maybe start looking at other alternatives? I don't really want to do that, but with the company kind of maybe doing some weirdness and taking some taking some weird risks and unnecessary changes, is this the time to look at the other options and start considering those as maybe the better alternatives? Like, yeah, I've been a Happy Plex user for a lot of years without paying anything on top of that. Which, okay, that part's not the greatest, but that said, yeah, I didn't see myself having to change, but now I kind of am wondering if that's what I'm going to get forced to do down the road. And I certainly don't really want to throw money at Plex Pass if in 6 months the apps are going to be miserable, and I'm going to be looking for an alternative. Like yeah, they've put forward a reason to consider not subscribing, getting a lifetime. They put forward that reason to consider it, and then immediately like pulled the rug out from under it, saying, hey, you were thinking about it, never mind, don't think about it quite yet, or maybe you should wait till the last minute. Yeah, like I kind of, yeah. And I don't have the update on my TVs yet, which
it's not even.
Yeah,
in
I was gonna
preview
say
for TVs.
I thought it was only mobile so far, which I don't use Plex on mobile, so I don't really have much of an opinion there. But if they ruin Plex on TV, like, yeah, that's kind of a big deal.
I mean, I'm using Plex on my Xbox Series X, so I am powering through that unoptimized React Native app. It's not going to be a problem for me.
Well,
it can use that entire GPU to render a list of TV episodes for all I care.
It's not a performance issue that I'm necessarily worried about. It's like, how are they going to script the interface?
Right.
Because look, I'm running this on a Shield, so granted it's an OG Shield, but that has a really good processor that is still better than
more horsepower than a Roku stick.
Well, I was going to say more power than the Google streamer or Google TV streamer or the on 4K. Like, it's still better than those. So, yeah, I'm not worried about a horsepower issue. I'm worried about things like, are they going to have episode lists working by the time that they try to push this to TV? I sure hope so, because that's a really basic feature that I use all the time. There's a whole lot of stuff that if it's not working, like, what condition is that going to be in? And I have genuinely already taken the step, I'm not kidding, of going and turning off automatic updates on my Shield, because this one app, unfortunately you can't turn off automatic updates on a single app on Android TV. You have to turn them off for all apps, which sucks. But I've done it for this one app because this one app could end up breaking, and this is where a large part of my TV watching is.
Well, as long as you're on Android TV, you could sideload the previous version. So
yeah, and
I can't do that.
I probably actually should. I should make a point of getting a copy of that APK ready just in case.
Yeah.
Though that assumes it's not split APKs, which is a nightmare on Android TV.
They probably have I have to imagine they have a normal APK download somewhere for all the people setting up Plex on weird non-Google services boxes.
Possibly, yeah.
Um, especially, I actually think that aren't the Android apps the same app? It's just a different, like it's like a switch in the app to change interfaces.
I do not
I'm
know.
not sure. Okay. Well, I, yeah, I think they messed up here. They very clearly rolled it out too early. I'm not at the point yet where I'm like seriously, like the there's a lot of people who have looked at everything Plex has done over the past couple of years, where a lot of it is not specifically focused on you streaming your own media,
Hmm.
and looked at all the features there and go, does Plex actually care about me anymore?
Right.
And my opinion that I've had and said here, and I still hold, is that I think Plex still cares about that a lot because it's a lot of their customers, but they are also trying other things because that gets more people into the ecosystem, and it also it gives them a sense of like, I guess legitimacy is maybe the best word, where they can go like advertise and stuff, like do, show up on promoted stuff on the Play Store. Like they have things they can show that's not, here's the app where you put all your pirated movies,
Hmm.
right? They can say other things. They can say, like, their big tagline for a while has been like, here's a bunch of free movies and TV shows, because they've got the their built-in streaming stuff. So I don't have a problem with them doing that, um, in that it gives them something to talk about and promote that isn't like the piracy thing. Um, I would be concerned if they start ripping out features for that, which they kind of accidentally did
Yeah, I was
here.
gonna say they
It's a
technically
lot of
just
yeah.
did do that.
They technically did it, yeah, but they're I'm sure they're making those developers work overtime to put those back in, or maybe they hit pause button on the rollout. I don't know. Again, I still don't have it. So I haven't really seen a major course correction from them yet. There, I think this was a screw up, but I think it was a screw up in the terms of like they needed to, you know, have the new app, and they just decided to, some manager somewhere decided to roll this out too early. So I that's not setting off alarm bells for me yet. Um, I would say, like, if there were kind of more core changes to the personal media library stuff, I'd maybe be concerned. But that stuff is still working as it always did. So I don't know. I think it's again, they shouldn't have rolled this out early, but I'm not full on like Plex is dead. Head for the hills. You need to go install Jellyfin on everything right this moment. You can still do that, but I'm not seeing a reason at this time to fully ditch Plex or anything.
Yeah, and I, I'm certainly not jumping to get rid of it. Far from it. Very, very far from it. Um,
I don't want to, because I my Plex server right now, it doesn't actually have any movies on it. I might move my music library back to that because the Apple Music stuff is just not that good. But right now, I did switch from my Sling TV Air 2 box to OTA TV on the Plex server, and that's my main TV thing now, because that is by far the best self-hosted option. Like all the other boxes, like they have like weird apps, or weird server configs or something. So Plex is pretty good there. So
yeah,
yeah, we'll
so
see.
my
They messed up here.
I agree with some of what you said, but I feel like there is a bit of a distinction. Um, or I'm seeing a little bit of a different angle on it, where I think uh oh yeah, awesome. Sometimes YouTube chat does weird stuff. Anyway, um what I worry about is okay, so I agree. I think that they're not trying to abandon the stream your own media crowd, because there's certainly a large number of people that they buy stuff in like Blu-ray form or DVDs or whatever, and they rip it onto their own server, and that's where they watch it from. They just want the better viewing experience that doesn't involve getting up and putting discs into a machine and all that stuff.
That was me.
Yeah.
I did that for a while. Every Blu-ray rip goes on the Plex server.
And there are other use cases and scenarios where it makes sense to do this stuff. There's also obviously the live recording that can go onto Plex and you can watch it, sort of DVR style. There are a lot of legitimate use cases that obviously sidestep the piracy angle. I'm sure those are minorities among Plex users, but that's not really the point. The problem I kind of see is that it's not that I think Plex is trying to abandon that crowd. It's that I think they have realized what every company eventually realizes. Basically, we were making money off of that crowd and various other things, but at a certain point we'd like to make more. And it's very clear that their attention has been, let's get people watching free stuff because ads. We'll make money by streaming stuff and we get to show ads, or someone's showing ads and we get a cut of that, whatever. So yeah, Plex is 100%, I think, very, very focused on trying to drive that angle. As I recall, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I swear at one point Plex started working with pay services or rental services so that you could rent content or something and then watch it through Plex. And
yeah, you can rent movies through Plex. It's just like doing it on YouTube or iTunes or whatever.
Yeah, I just don't know what service they were working with for that. But when you put all this together, I feel like the company, or I'm getting the notes of the company basically saying, we don't want to scare off that crowd, but they're no longer the audience we're trying to cater to. And if I'm going to draw a comparison to anything, I think it's kind of like how OnlyFans at one point said, you know what, that whole porn thing, we're actually, we kind of don't want that to be our brand anymore. We kind of want to be the place that celebrities go to just start up fan channels. And so, they got what's his name from Teen Wolf. They got several other celebs who were all going to create their fan channel and collect money that way. And hey, good for them. They're going to come and be the wholesome, or quasi wholesome group. And very obviously OnlyFans wanted that to be their thing. It obviously also didn't really work, but that's besides the point.
I would agree that does have the same energy of we need to try to be a more legitimate service, but that's also very different from coming at it from a different place, I guess. So
like I said, I think it's more that they don't want to scare off the crowd that they've been catering to all these years. But I do think that their concern here is, at least understandably, profit driven. Their main concern is that they just like the company or the product to make more money, and I don't blame them for that. But at the same time, I mean, my interests don't align with their interests.
Yeah, and there is also the fun part where like technically, if you want to be like just maximum, you know, uh business guy, is the people who got lifetime Plex Pass are the people you should care the least about because you already got
Hmm.
their money.
Exactly.
So, you want to, maybe sell Plex Passes in the future so you keep them happy, but you already got their money. Um,
Well,
so
or the other angle on it is you should, I don't want to say care the least about them, rather you should care the most about finding new ways to monetize those people because they're already invested. Like this becomes a sort of a sunk cost fallacy angle, except you're hoping for the sunk cost fallacy to keep working on them. Now that they've spent the money, they've given you their money, they don't want to leave because they've already spent that money. Therefore, how do you find ways to monetize that crowd specifically? And that's the trick. Um,
yeah,
and in a sense, like that also makes it more concerning to be a member of that class. Like, do you really want to be the person that pays for a lifetime only to then become the new, like, hey, everything we do is going to be about trying to squeeze another, you know, squeeze you into watching stuff with ads or squeeze you into paying for another thing, or like, how do we make more money off of this person who has now shown and demonstrated they're willing to pay us?
yeah, yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I haven't really seen evidence that would convince me to run for the hills with Plex. Clearly, they're making some dumb decisions, but
Well,
so far,
right now
they're
right now those dumb decisions just
it's
seem like ineptitude rather than
yeah.
willful greed or maliciousness.
Yeah, I understood their arguments. The arguments made sense to me. Execution left a lot to be desired. I'm sure, the Plex app 3 months from now will be probably a lot better. If they ever speak of filing for an IPO, I will be heading for this. that's that's where I would get very concerned. Um,
Valid.
so
That being said, honestly, I would be surprised if they don't eventually make a make a play for an IPO. Just
I'm
because
sure.
it, I mean, just because they're old enough at this stage, it would be a little strange not to. Which is also concerning because that's usually where things start going wrong. I mean, certainly some companies have gone wrong long before IPOs. Just look at Reddit. But
Mhm.
uh, yeah, if that day comes and they are legally obligated to try to make money for their investors, um, yeah, that becomes problematic in numerous ways.
Yeah, because again, Plex already got the money from the Plex Pass users. So
Hmm. Well, the lifetime subscribers.
yeah, yeah. So yeah. So if you got the app, it probably sucks right now. Just deal with it. Or if you have an Android device, you have the ability to downgrade, and presumably that old app will keep working for a while. I don't know how quickly things break if you're stuck on old Plex versions, but um, I was checking um, how I was checking how many platforms Plex was supporting, and I did Google for if the Xbox 360 and PS3 Plex apps are still around, and apparently they do still mostly work. Uh, so I would imagine mobile app from version December, whenever they updated last, is probably going to be fine for a while. So so yeah, that's Plex. If you get the update, don't panic. It sucks, but just you know maybe don't use it on your phone for everything right now.
Yes. So, how's it going, Carson? Welcome. Yeah, the good night was actually aimed just at Metric Brawl, who was taking off to go sleep. So contextually relevant to him, not to the rest of the show. But anyway, so speaking of companies that have done maybe questionable things, moving into companies that have definitely done extraordinarily stupid, horrible, catastrophically ignorant, dumbass things, let's talk about Automatic. So, well, Corbin, I'll just let you take the dunk on this one.
Yeah, so Automatic, which is the company that owns WordPress, well, they don't. I don't know if they own the WordPress organization anymore, but like they own at least some of the infrastructure. They own WordPress.com, which is the hosted service official option. They own Tumblr. They own a lot of WordPress plugins. They are laying off 16% of their staff. TechCrunch said ahead of the layoffs, Automatic's website listed 1,744 employees, which means north of 270 people may have lost their jobs. Automatic declined to confirm this number, but we're hearing the exact number was 281. And it's the normal excuse of like restructuring to stay competitive, whatever. And it's more notable than it would be otherwise because Automatic and specifically its CEO Matt Mullenweg has just been constantly in the news because Matt is doing dumb stuff. Like I think it was just last year. I don't know if it was before that, but for a while last year, he was going on an Elon Musk like attack on I forgot WP Engine, where there was a dispute with WP Engine where they were offering WordPress hosting services that kind of maybe sort of implied it was like an official WordPress thing, and they were also developing some popular WordPress plugins. And Automatic Matt specifically got really mad at them online and had a meltdown about it. And there was a period where they tried to shut off WP Engine customers from like WordPress plugin access, which is a major security risk because you need the latest versions of those because there's security vulnerabilities in them all the time. So if you have a WordPress site, you really need to keep it updated. And then there was a while where like if you logged in with WordPress, there was like a checkbox that said like I'm not affiliated with WP Engine. Just like toddler on the playground bullying, just really dumb. And I think he eventually backed off from some of it, also because they were losing. I don't know what it was in court. It was I don't know if it ever got to a full blown lawsuit, but it was like a prejudgment on something. But it was a total mess, and Matt was clearly showing his entire ass repeatedly on the internet. Like just getting into arguments, I think on like Hacker News and stuff, like the same exact thing where Elon Musk like rants about something on Twitter at 3 a.m. Like just that repeatedly. So on first glance, it's kind of tempting to go like, haha, company's not doing so great after you made everyone else's lives awful for a while. But of course, Matt is still there. Matt's still there. He's probably doing fine. I'm sure he's not losing a wink of sleep over this. He might maybe losing a little bit of sleep over like getting dunked on Hacker News forums. He's maybe a little bit upset about that.
Honestly, I the only thing I think he's losing sleep over is just how much he hates WP Engine.
Yeah.
And maybe
For sure.
maybe how mad he is that people aren't all rushing to be on his side with this. But and who knows, maybe we just don't really know him well enough, but yeah, all signs point to this guy is just an obsessive who's kind of gone off the rails. Um,
Yeah. Again, same exact like narcissism behavior as we've seen from Musk, and I don't know how many other weird tech guys. They're just a lot of them are like this. And we need to stop tech companies until we can figure out what is going
well,
on.
you say tech companies. I think it's a lot broader than that, but um,
Right, the rich, yes.
yeah.
Um,
But more significantly, and this is the moment where we basically say, and you were on your way to this. Uh, we don't necessarily we don't want to dunk on the company, and we certainly don't want to dunk on the people that just lost their jobs, because these people, at least most of them, I assume, are innocent. They're not the people who wanted this war. They're, I assume, again, most of them did not even endorse it or support it. They're people who just wanted to work, make money. That's why we work. And they wanted to, and some of them, I assume most of them probably actually like this job and the projects they're working on. Yet here they are, they just lost their jobs because they have an irresponsible, uh basically borderline, or at least possibly sociopathic CEO who has decided to start a war over nothing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's costing real people their jobs.
yeah, and I think there are some cases where you can make an argument of the employees at the company being responsible for what the company as a whole is doing, or sort of helping them in their mission if their mission is bad. But most of those guys were probably like WordPress developers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sure they're fine. I'm again, a lot of the public disruption was like Matt being an ass on the internet and starting a bunch of legal threats. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything being done like at Automatic in terms of like their products are evil. They're just like it's WordPress and all the companies that they bought that they don't really know how to make money with. It's Tumblr, it's the Beeper app, it's Pocket Cast. I don't maybe there's no one left at Pocket Cast now. Like, it's looking grim over there.
Judging by the way Pocket Cast has progressed over the years, yeah, I actually would be surprised if that still has a
Yeah.
team. But
And if there is someone still there, I'm sorry, and I hope you treat yourself to something nice. go get yourself a present or something. I don't know.
hey, you go get a tub of Ben and Jerry's. It's okay. We'll
Yeah,
forgive you.
we'll allow it.
Yeah.
I am the keeper of the ice cream.
But yeah,
That goes for everyone also watching this. Like, if you need a little something to get through your week because everything's bad, you do it. The calories aren't real when you're sad. I need you to know this.
Yeah. If only true.
That's when they count them.
So anyway, yeah, the problem here is at some point we've got CEOs who are basically they make terrible choices, and in all likelihood, as you said, Matt is basically not immune to it, but no one's firing him. He is still there. He is still making the calls. He's still in charge of what happens, and as a result, the victims of this are the employees. Now, again, some of them may have endorsed his weird little war. They may not have fought back against it or whatever. Like, people can argue the different angles of that conversation. But ultimately, it was this guy who is not going to appreciably suffer, who is causing other people suffering, and he's responsible for it. Like, full stop. He's the one who made this happen. And look, I'm not going to say that every CEO needs to be responsible, full stop, for every single decision that they make, but at the same time, this is one who was given every opportunity along the way to say, you know what, never mind, fine, I get it. People don't agree with me. I'll take some time to think about it. Sorry for bugging everyone. He could have done that at any point over the last, I mean, I don't know when we started talking about this, but we've talked about this on the show at least 5 times, I think. Maybe more. Probably. And this has been going on at least 6 months. I think longer. So, yeah, I mean, at any point, he could have just backed off. And in all likelihood, if he had done it just a couple months ago, 16% of the company's staff would still be working tomorrow. Or after whatever point that they're not welcome back. So yeah, just saying, like, this is on him, and it's terrible for the people that just got laid off. I really sympathize with them, and the timing couldn't be worse, given that obviously tons of people are out there looking for work right now. Thanks to another person who is ostensibly a CEO-like figure who can't seem to do anything right and is trying to fire as many people as possible. So yeah, you know, this sucks. This sucks. And Matt, just from me to you, I just gonna say this: you suck.
Mm-hmm. I second that.
Okay.
But he's not going to hire me anyway.
Well, I'm not a WordPress developer, so the odds of me getting hired there were next to nothing. And for what it's worth, out of the other companies that they own, I don't think I would work on any of those projects either. So that, yeah, I think I'm okay.
I would be a marketing guy, but then I have to be a marketing guy for whatever Matt's shenanigans are happening.
Yes.
You know, someone probably had to write a dumb, response to a news story at 2 a.m. Getting cold call from like Engadget being like, "Hey, do you have a statement for this thing Matt said?" You're like, wait, like what? What did he say?
Yeah.
What do you do now? Let me get back.
Yeah, dude, it's 2 a.m. Wait, when did he say this? Oh, 20 minutes ago. Listen, our PR office doesn't open for, you know what? Just say that we're figuring it out.
No comment.
Yeah, I plead the fifth.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, all right. So last thing we got is the Nintendo Switch 2. It's real. They did a live stream this morning. Nintendo was talking about it. So I think what most people wanted from a Switch 2 was just the Switch, but able to run new games again. I think that was the main thing. Like, it's pretty clear the form factor was a huge success. The fact that it was a handheld that could be docked and it was essentially also a home console worked well. Had a lot of games people liked, but the games were getting progressively rougher on it, especially the third-party games. At least the ones that existed, a lot of them just skipped the Switch because it's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Nintendo needed to fix, and their answer is the Switch 2, which is pretty much the Switch. They have it. The design is mostly the same. They added some more buttons, so you need new controllers, all that fun stuff. They added there's two USB ports now, one on the top and one on the bottom, so you can use accessories a little bit easier. There's some new social features, like they have something that's kind of like Discord that's built into the OS for multiplayer and online stuff. Of course, it's tied into like the Switch subscription, I believe. Um, but it's a supposedly pretty big processor bump. It's the specs page does say custom NVIDIA, so it's something newer in the Tegra family. But you know, with more stuff, and yeah, I mean it's an upgraded Switch. They talked about some of the games that are coming to it, and it gives you an idea of kind of what this is capable of. They mentioned that it's going to get Split Fiction. It's going to get a version of Cyberpunk 2077. It's going to get Street Fighter 6, Borderlands 4, Yakuza 0, Director's Cut, Star Wars Outlaws, a lot of like current gen games, and also upcoming Nintendo games. So that's what most people wanted. And they did confirm the price, which is $450. I believe the normal Switch right now is $300, and the Switch OLED is $350, I think. So I think that pricing to me seems okay, considering how long of a life the original Switch had, and the processor bump and everything else going on here. It seems fine to me. Now, granted, we'll see if it ends up being $450, because it could very well be a lot more. I think I've not confirmed any of this. I saw one person mention that Nintendo shifted production of the Switch 2 to Vietnam out of fear that manufacturing it in mainland China would be subject to more tariffs, but Trump just dropped more tariffs on Vietnam along with like 100 other countries, so that didn't work. Carson said, "Why is it not OLED?" Yeah, so the new Switch, it is an LCD, but it goes up to 120 hertz and it has HDR, so it's kind of a side grade, I would say. I definitely wouldn't want to buy it until the OLED model comes out. I think Nintendo they're doing like what Apple does with iPhone models, where the new iPhone comes out, and then in 6 months they'll release the color that you actually want, and they'll get some people to upgrade again, or have a different upgrade cycle. So I'm sure we'll get a Switch 2 OLED in like a year when Nintendo needs a new bump in hardware sales.
Yep.
Or maybe they'll do I don't think this would happen, but maybe they'll do a Switch 2 OLED and then bump down the price of the regular Switch 2, and that fully replaces all Switch consoles, like Switch 1. Because I don't think they're going to stop manufacturing the original immediately, because
I doubt
it seems like to me, that's just going to be the new budget option, because that still has a ton of games, and some games that are going to come out. Nintendo showed, I think, 2 games that are coming to the Switch 1 still. Like it's going to keep getting the games that can reasonably run on it, in the same way that like the PS4 and Xbox One still get some games. Just like I think third-party support probably just completely dry up, except the games that are like really basic, and don't have a problem on that hardware. But yeah, so that's the Switch 2. I will say I'm kind of disappointed by it, even though like on paper it's kind of what I want. It's mostly the pricing here that's rough to me, because my personal experience with the Switch is that I got it when it was pretty new. I got Mario Kart. I got a lot of the Mario games. I played the BioShock remaster, Clubhouse games. I really liked it, and then I got the OLED Switch. But the games I wanted from Nintendo started to be more disappointing, especially because I really care about online multiplayer because I don't have anyone locally to play with. There's no one else here. Um, and for whatever reason, Nintendo's just been completely incapable of making online multiplayer except with Mario Kart. Mario Kart works really well, but like everything else, they do some weird network latency stuff where like games start to lag if like one person's ping is really bad. Just like very bizarre stuff. And that kind of soured me on a lot of their games, especially the ones that would be anything like online. And then they started releasing like some remasters and re-releases for games that like I would want to play at some point, but they're like compromised in one weird way because of the Switch. Like they did a remaster of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, which is a game I really like. I played like half of it years ago, and I want to play the whole thing again. It was on the GameCube. I have my Wii, and I loaded it on there to play at some point. And they did a remaster for that for the Switch. Then I'd be like, oh, good, I can play the game, and it's better now. Oh, it's 30 frames per second on here, but it was 60 on the GameCube. It's like, okay, yeah, it's very reminiscent of the Nintendo 3DS, which also got a lot of remasters and re-releases, but was weird in like one specific way. So that kind of soured me on getting new Nintendo stuff. And with the Switch 2, it's harder because the console itself is more expensive. Again, I think that if it's $450, it seems kind of reasonable to me with how long it lasts. But that's, and then you throw in the hardware accessories. So like the Joy-Cons now are $90, the new Joy-Cons, and like you better hope those don't self-destruct like the last ones did, which I don't think they ever like actually fully apologized for, and I don't think they've outright confirmed that the new ones are impervious to Joy-Con drift. So that's kind of concerning to me. All the first party hardware, like the new Pro controller is new Pro controller is $80. Like I didn't think the Pro controller for the Switch was that good, and I think that was like 60. And like this one looks a little bit more improved, but like I don't think they've made a better controller than like Sony. I don't know if that's happening with their Pro controller. And then the Switch 2 uses micro SD express cards, so I will give them props. You chose a industry standard option for storage expansion. You didn't pull an Xbox or a PS Vita, so that's good. But also, those are more expensive than normal SD cards because they're faster, and a lot of Switch games are going to require full downloads. Like there just won't be game data on the cartridge, so you're going to use up that storage faster. And the games are going to be bigger just because they're newer games, higher graphics, whatever. So, like all that combined makes me feel kind of nervous. And I think the only game they fully confirmed pricing for in the US that I could find was the Mario Kart game, which is going to be $80.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me worried that most Nintendo games for the system will be like $70 to $80, which I can't do. I'm sorry. Like this is one of the issues I have with the Switch, where when Nintendo's burned me a couple times with their games being disappointed in the ways I wanted to play them. And trying again almost always meant spending $50 or $60 because their games are never on sale. They never allow their games to be on sale. Sometimes a few of them, usually the ones that you bought 4 years ago, are like 15% off for a day or whatever. Like they just don't do discounts in the same way as every other publisher. So building the library on that system is very expensive. So much so then like everyone who has ever used Steam and just puts a ton of games on their wish list, and when the Steam sale starts, you buy all of them. Or like I'm doing almost the same thing on Xbox. I've racked up a lot of Xbox games, just have them on my wish list, and then when they're $20, I buy them. or a couple ones I bought used on eBay because my Xbox has a disc drive, so I can just buy used games. You can do that for Switch too, but for the Nintendo Switch as well. But like I the used game prices can also be kind of high because Nintendo sets the baseline value so high and doesn't move it. It in the same way Apple does with a lot of its products, where Apple products, most of them don't really go on big sales. There are a couple like the base units of like the MacBook Airs or the iPads or whatever, but outside of that, not really. So it's not an appealing thing to me to look at the Switch where I'm paying for the console, paying a lot of money for each individual Nintendo game, which are the main draw to the Switch. And especially when I tried using the Switch more often, I didn't really enjoy the mental thing of when I'm getting a game, I'm asking myself like, do I want to pay for a worse version of this game that is portable, or do I want to spend that money on the version that is better but only works on my TV, or whatever I'm streaming my Xbox to? And it's not really something I enjoy doing. And then when the games are so expensive, I almost go into them with like an expectation of like, well, this better be worth the money, I paid. It's like I don't want to do that. That like ruins. It's not fun. It's not fun. I don't like doing that. It makes the games less fun. So yeah, just disappointing here in the pricing and accessibility of this, and that's assuming all this pricing will stay the same. Maybe the Switch 2 comes to the US and it's $500. I don't know. Carson said Steam Deck is still better than this. So I mentioned in my article about this that like I think the Steam Deck and the Switch still has almost no overlap. Like they're the same form factor. Roughly. But that's kind of where, that's kind of where it ends, because the Steam Deck, and I'm gonna throw in like all the other PC handhelds there because they're functionally very similar. It's just some of them have Windows. That is like having a PC in a handheld form factors, and with all of the advantages and disadvantages that come with that. And where like maybe the game doesn't open when you're on an airplane because the Steam launcher is expecting you to have an internet connection, or maybe your handheld just like doesn't boot right because either the Steam Deck OS or Windows messed up a software update. Or in the Steam Deck's case, what happens most of the time is a game you were playing and enjoyed got an update where the developer didn't test it in the Proton compatibility layer specifically, and something broke and you can't play the game anymore. So that's a thing that never happens with the Switch or like a actual like built software platform, console platform. So if someone was coming to me and being like, I want to play some games on the go, like I would still tell them to get a Switch or a Switch 2. I think the Steam Deck and those kinds of devices are for very specific people who are okay with like how PC gaming works and are okay with the compromises that comes with taking the compromises that PC gaming already has, like, oh great, I need to leave my game open for 30 minutes to let the shaders compile, or like a launcher acting weird or something. And those are exacerbated on the mobile form factor of like, okay, now I have this on a handheld where Windows like kind of works. Sometimes I can't get the keyboard to open to like check something in an app. So I think those are very different use cases and not really the same audience. There is overlap, but if you want like a thing to play games on and like not really think about it that much, I think the Switch is still the only option. Maybe depending on the games you're getting, something like I have here the Logitech G Cloud, which is an Android handheld. It's mostly made for cloud games, but like I can play a couple of games natively on this. There are a lot of these now. Like you know, if the games you're playing are on Android, maybe that those are worth considering. Or you really want to do emulation because the Switch doesn't really let you do a lot of that. It's just kind of like the, you know, whatever games have been repackaged into the online sub or a re-release. You know, one of those like retro game packages.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think still a Switch of some sort is going to be better for that kind of stuff.
Oh boy. Okay, so you just said a lot there and kind of hit most of the topics. One thing is a quick follow up. I did some looking, and as far as I can tell, Nintendo has not actually confirmed if they're using Hall Effect sticks. So stick drift may still just be a problem.
It might still happen.
Yeah, it's completely unknown. That's kind
$90.
Yeah, that's kind of a big problem. And in fairness, at least from I just happened to see this as I was looking. Evidently, you can buy Hall Effect stick replacements for the original Switch at a cost of $12, or thereabouts. So, yeah, logically, rather than buying new Joy-Cons, it might be worth just ripping the ones open and replacing the sticks, which should not have to be a solution, but also, let's be honest, very well could be the best solution. As far as it goes, I find the pricing of the Switch the pricing is fine. Look, it's not great. I don't think it's bad either though, because in practical terms, if you compare it against any of the other consoles, yeah, it's a smaller thing, but it also has built-in screen and battery and a few other things. Logically, it was going to go up. You know, a mere fact of inflation plus the obvious upcoming tariffs and everything else. Look, it was going to go up. Anyone who thought it wasn't going to go up would have been kind of in fantasy land. And the fact that it, at least so far, probably isn't 500. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. We'll see. But if it does land for 450, I think that's from my own valuation, and certainly not based on anything official or practical, I think that makes sense. The game price is like a hot poker shoved up an orifice. That is comically insulting because, let's be honest, they're going to be charging more for games that definitely have less content than a lot of other games that are going to be coming out that are, multi-platform. And those games will have more content, better content in many instances. And yes, I understand that some of the games will actually probably deserve to be priced at, say, 80, 90, or $100. And when I say deserve to be, that's maybe a little that might be a little bit wishy-washy thinking,
right.
But
talking in the cold calculating way of like hours per dollar, or however you want to dice it.
Sure, yeah, but I'm thinking. Let's see, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. That's a new game, right? They say Nintendo Switch 2 edition. I'm assuming that they'll come out with like a Switch 1 edition.
Because it was promised. No, it's not already out. It was supposed to be a Switch 1 game, but because it's taking so long, they're just going to release it on both.
Got it.
The 2 version will be better in some way.
I don't know this with any basis, but I'm going to assume that this is going to be a relatively dense, complex, and full game. and so maybe the price will not be too insulting for that. Uh, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Donkey Kong Bonanza, probably not going to be nearly as rich of a game. Should this cost $80 or 90 or 100? I've seen various speculations that apparently prices in the US, I guess, might be as high as 100. I don't really understand why that might be, but okay. Or Kirby Air Riders. These do not seem like games that are likely to be in the, you know, true AAA category where they're going to have like heavy voice acting and really rich storylines and all of the things that usually signify the sure, let's pay a little extra for this game sort of territory. These seem like games that are going to be probably a lot like classic, well, you know, classic, air quote, classic games that are going to have their content. They'll have lots of maps and all that stuff, but really, should they cost that much? I struggle to see the logic in this. And if Nintendo's pricing is going to be that high, this feels like a little bit like, I don't know, it's hard to justify. Which goes certainly to your point. And yes, I firmly agree with the logic of, as long as you have the option to go to a different system, most people are far better served going to a different system. Especially because, and you know, this is something you lightly touched on, but I think plenty of people have very rightfully been banging this drum already. I think everybody knows that the hardware in this is going to be fine when it comes out. It's going to be fine for a year after it comes out. Is it going to be enough at, say, 2 years or 3 years? I think people are really going to start feeling that pressure. I have a feeling that the limits of this hardware are probably going to be mostly taken up when the system is already coming out. Which is to say that in, say, 3 years, I think we're going to start seeing games coming out on other platforms that are basically going to be not no-goes on the Switch 2, but they're going to be in that territory where it's no longer going to be a good experience to run that game. They'll be ported, sure, you know, or at least some will be. But I think a lot of them people are going to be saying, you know what? Yeah, you're going to get shorter draw distances. You're going to get lower polygon counts. The game is not going to look as good. It's going to be somehow compromised. And that's going to be if my theory holds true, that's going to be at like 3 years. This is going to be at least, at bare minimum, a 6-year console. Probably more. If that's the case.
I mean, that's going to happen out of the gate, honestly, because like I'm looking at, you know, they mentioned Cyberpunk 2077. There's no way Cyberpunk 2027 on Switch 2 is going to look as good as it on the PS5 and Xbox Series, just because of the technical limitations of those consoles having more, you know, power through the wall and more cooling and all that other fun stuff. So it's going to start off as a compromised experience, but just like the Switch when it started, it's like, oh, you know, it's fine if it's a little bit worse because I can take it with me, and then it's going to, you know, slowly degrade.
Yeah. Okay, and I'll grant you're right there. I think with I guess the exception, or sort of exception, I would make is I'm going to sort of call the crisis argument here. There will always be something that already exists today that is grossly demanding. It takes far more power than is reasonable, or it has settings or extra features or whatever that are just way beyond what our current expectations should be for what is considered a current or modern game. Cyberpunk 2077 was one of those that, due to its like ray tracing features and so many other things, yeah, of course that's going a step beyond, and I think it's safe to say that that's an exception to the rule. But I'm talking more in the lines of, let's just say, Call of Duty. You know,
your Call of Duty, your NBA games, your Assassin's Creeds.
yeah,
Yeah.
because when it's the standard games, and standard feels like a bit of a unfair term at this point, because they are in most cases gorgeous games and they are graphically demanding, but when it's the games that everyone's sitting there pointing to and saying, yeah, these are whatever quality, and the thing is, though, we also expect them to run on everything. And the Switch is going to be running at what is it, 4K 60 or 1440 at 120, correct?
I'm not. I couldn't find exact info about the dock, but I didn't look that hard. I know the dock is able of going up to 4K and up to 120 frames per second. I don't know if that's simultaneously or if it's different modes.
At least something I read earlier in a conversation, and yeah, this take with a grain of salt, because this is not based on something confirmed. But I saw at least somebody saying that, yeah, the built-in screen is going to... Well, the built-in screen, yes, is 1080, 120.
Yes, correct.
So no matter what...
like double upgrade from the original Switch, because the handheld screen on there was 720p.
Yeah.
And 60.
So inherently, yes. But the reason I think that's significant is that means that any game that you're playing portable... You're already automatically just turning the settings down to 1080p. So, lower demand. And no one, I think reasonably no one's going to sit there and say, oh, well, I expect the graphics to be better than 1080p because blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not a thing. Or
lower, honestly, because it's still how big is the screen? Tech specs. 7.9 inch screen. So yeah, I mean that gives you some headroom. You can go a little bit lower on the pixel density, and I don't think too many people will mind.
Right. But yeah, once you filter out those special exception games like Cyberpunk, once you factor in some of the we understand there's a compromise that if you're playing truly like portable, you're going to have one experience, whereas if it's sitting in the dock, you're going to have another. Once you set those aside, I think it's fair to say that there's still going to be a little bit of room after the actual console comes out, where people can say, okay, everything that has come out for this console, it's running fine, and the console, even if the console was better, it's not going to deliver more from those games. I think that's a state that we're going to see for a little bit after it first comes out. But I'd be shocked if it's not a very short span of time before at least a few game studios are saying, you know what, we can release this even for fairly middling powered PCs, and our game will look great on those. But on the Switch, we had to turn down draw distance. We had to turn down the quality on polygons. We had to do this. We had to do that. Like, I think that's going to be coming at 2 to 3 years, and well before the Switch has reached its like final maturity stage, there are going to be a lot of game studios that are simply saying, we can't do it anymore. Like, there's just no way that we can release a game here that we could somewhere else. And look, I get it. It's a portable device. I don't want to assert that that's not a relevant issue here. But at the same time, was there no way to get that hardware compromised somewhere else, especially when the game prices are as high as they're going to be?
Yeah.
Because every other console through history has made that compromise. They've sold their consoles at a loss. Nintendo has never done that. Nintendo has always sold their consoles at a profit, and then of course they sell the games at a profit. Every other console maker has
crazy profit.
Yes.
Like, when I was writing about this earlier, I checked Best Buy's website, and right now at Best Buy, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is $60. That is a 7-year-old Switch game that is a re-release of an 11-year-old Wii U game. And it's $60.
Oh boy. I don't even know what to say.
While I've gotten so many great games for like under $10.
Yeah.
I think I played the Mass Effect remastered trilogy on Xbox. That was on Game Pass, so I think that was more just like me getting my full money's worth out of that Game Pass sub. That was very good. I got Death Stranding on Xbox for like $30, I think. More than halfway through that, and that's definitely worth what I paid for it. I got a lot of other Xbox games digitally for like $10-15. They go on sale all the time. There are some like publishers that are weird about digital for older games. Like, I've never seen, like Portal 2 is digital on Xbox, but I've never seen that go on sale. Like, I guess Valve just doesn't want to do that. And like GTA 4, I had on my wish list for a long time and I never saw it go on sale. So I just got the disc version on eBay for like $7 plus shipping. So, I can keep doing that. And then Nintendo's like, what if we sell you a 10-year-old game for $60?
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Well, and again, I feel like if the games are priced the way that it sounds like they're going to be, why is that not subsidizing the better hardware I'm asking for? And okay, I admit, maybe they couldn't have put better hardware in, given the thermal limitations and given some of the other caveats. I don't know. I'm not a systems engineer working on electronics. I don't know what the possible limits are, where that inflection point would be either. And it's hard to predict, like, what could they have put in here that wouldn't have had that like 2 to 3 year fall off point, and then the say 5 or 6 year stopping point where studios are just saying, yeah, we can't even push to it anymore. I don't know what hardware would have to go into to make that work, or what it would have cost. And I imagine it would have been a substantial price increase. But at the same time, if you're selling a game for $80 to $100, how much of that is profit? And and if you have enough people who are buying those games, should that not be subsidizing some of that cost? Every other studio or every other console maker through history has found ways to make this work. I have trouble believing Nintendo can't. And I think a lot of people are going to be second guessing purchasing games on Switch because of the hardware limits. And ultimately, that's probably costing Nintendo more than it would to have eaten a little bit of cost on the hardware in the first place. Just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, we're just having the Plex discussion again. It's like, why don't the company make a little bit less money for a better experience for their product? And it's like, oh, right.
Well, in this instance, I mean, technically what I'm arguing for is I think Nintendo could actually have made more money. It, I know that sounds like a crazy thought, but I think Nintendo could make more money if the Switch came with better hardware out of the gate and cost the company money up front, and their whole goal is just we'll make it back in game sales over a longer span of time. If you're going to charge that much for games and you're not going to put them on sale, then holy crap, you need to actually sell enough games. And if people buy this, if people are buying this and they say, you know what, I'm buying it for 4 games. I mean, realistically, if you're buying the Switch 2, let's be honest, you're probably buying it for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. You're probably buying it for whatever Zelda game is going to come out.
It's going to be all Mario Kart at first.
Yeah, it's going to be
Like,
maybe a Mario Kart, maybe Donkey Kong. I don't know. Pick whatever mix of a few games, and that's what you're going to get on here. I genuinely would be surprised if there's going to be that many people buying Borderlands 4 on here, because come on, get real. And at this stage, I also kind of doubt there's anyone buying Cyberpunk on this, because for one, most people have probably played it if they were going to.
No, I mean, yeah, I think there's always the people, because again, this is how I treated the Switch for a couple of years. It's like, this is my only, like, I always had at least a PC alongside the Switch, but that was like my only thing where it's like, if a game is available on here, I will probably get it on here just because it's more accessible to me. And I'm okay with the compromises. And I know with the Switch, there was definitely a lot of those where like there were people coming from the, you know, Wii U, 3DS, like that whole ecosystem where just a bunch of games just never went there. Like the Switch getting Doom 2016 was kind of a big deal almost in that way of like, yeah, it's this game that a lot of people played, but probably not a lot of Nintendo's audience, the people that buy their consoles. So I think there's going to be people for it, but it will not be me.
Yeah,
because like I said, I don't like immediately getting into a game with sort of like a sunk cost fallacy brain, and I don't like having to make the decision of, do I spend my money on the worse but more portable version, or the better but not portable? That's not fun either. So I'm just not gonna do it. I'm gonna keep using I was okay spending a lot of money on the Xbox Series X because I'm pretty sure it would last like a decade, and still good. I still, I didn't enjoy getting the super proprietary storage card for it, but still fine. I don't think I'm a Game Pass person, so I'm gonna let that expire. Just not for me. But I've racked up a lot of cheap digital games, and of course there's a ton of stuff in backwards compat for me to keep playing. So I'm a happy camper there. My controller hasn't, well, one of my controllers did have joystick issues like yours, but the other one's still fine. And like the really nice thing for me with the Xbox was, number one, I can just play the game. I'm not waiting for shaders to compile. I'm not trying to figure out like why the launcher isn't working. I'm not waiting for Windows to install updates. It just plays the game. That's really nice. And also with Xbox, the quick resume is so nice. It does go haywire for like the like Overwatch and like those kinds of online games where it's just like, oh, I don't know what to do anymore. You lost internet connection. But everything else is really great. Like, it's really fun playing a game for like 2 months and seeing the main menu like twice. It's just always, it goes back to the pause menu. So that's been, so I don't regret my Xbox at all. That was pretty good. So I don't feel the need for a Switch.
Yeah. So my feeling on, I look, I don't want to get into a whole like Xbox versus PlayStation argument, or even invite that particular discussion. I'm still of the opinion that the PlayStation experience, quality, and game selection is better. Um, but I don't think it's so much so that anyone really needs to get too caught up in like which one is better. Like
Sure.
it's not a big fight.
At,
It's
at
just
the end of the day, there's also like very personal decisions about what
yeah.
games you want. Like I got the Xbox in part over the PlayStation because I knew I wanted to eventually play Starfield when that came out, and that was going to be an Xbox exclusive. So they got me with that, but I did like Starfield, so I don't feel that bad about it.
Yeah, and in the same vein, like the reasons why I would generally go to PlayStation, at least in terms of game selection, is I want Horizon Forbidden West. I know that did actually come out on PS4, but I wasn't going to get it on a console that clearly was not meant to play it. Or like a future The Last of Us entry, and so on and so forth. Like, there are reasons why I would lean PS5 over in Xbox Series X. Let's see. Carson's saying he'll buy a PlayStation if The Last of Us Part 3 ever comes out. Let's be honest, it definitely will. Though, part of me does wonder if it'll happen during the PS5 era. I think it will, but at the same time, you never know. Naughty Dog seems somewhat occupied these days. Anyway. But, you know, these are discussions about what I would say are the two top... or they're the two TV consoles. As you pointed out multiple times, and I mean, well, we both did. The Switch 2 and Switch, most of their selling point is this is portable. Obviously, you can plug it in and play it on the dock, and that's a big part of it, but it's a portable console. And that kind of leads me into my part of the discussion of what you just said, which is it's a portable console that I don't really care about the portability. Like, that's not a selling point to me in the way that it is for a lot of people. And over the years, maybe I might have cared about that a little differently at times, but for the most part, I'm not going someplace with a console and saying I need to bring games with me to this place or that place. If I really want the time waster, I have games on my phone. I'm good with that. That can occupy.
I've got Civ 6 and Bloons Tower Defense 5 on my telephone. That's all I need. That could pass an indefinite amount of time.
Yeah.
If needed.
So yeah, I've got it's not the same class of game, but it's fine for wasting some time. And to be fair, you can not that the experience is good, but you can even get up to Final Fantasy games playing on your phone. So I don't think it's the end all be all that you need to still go to a handheld console just for gaming. So
yeah,
there's that.
Yeah,
I'm not the
just like with the original Switch, the selling point is it's portable and it's the only thing that has Nintendo games.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not the target audience really for the Switch anyway. Don't get me wrong, I'd kind of like to play some of the Zelda games. I'd kind of like to play Metroid, though. I'd have to see what current Metroid looks like, because I was kind of down with some of the old Metroid, but once Metroid went to 3D, kind of really not my game. It was very clearly a different style of play, and it just did not sit well with me. let's see. So yeah, I don't see myself getting a Switch, both due to price and its assorted limitations, and also my expectation of what the experience is going to be like. And even if I was to get one, uh, I, like you suggested practically in the beginning, wait for the OLED version, because that's 100% going to be the one to get, not the LCD version that's coming right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Also, Carson brought up with a few
He said,
messages.
what's the oh yeah, he said I'll buy a PlayStation if The Last of Us 3 ever comes out, but hopefully there's a cloud version by then.
Right. But no, this so the Switch 2 game key cards. Apparently these are not going to contain any of the data for the game, but rather they're basically just physical keys containing an unlock code for downloading the game.
Yeah, the yeah, they're pretty similar to what the original Switch already had, and what I assume will continue in some form for the Switch 2, which is there were some games that could not entirely fit on the cartridge. You had to download at least some of it. This is functionally the same, where you can't play the game until you download something. It's just now it's the whole game.
Yeah. I mean, the language they use is very I mean, technically it could be left open to interpretation, but I would say it is pretty direct and very clear. It says, quote, the game itself isn't included on the game key card, so you'll have to download it before you can play. Which I'm at least choosing to interpret that as none of the game is on there.
Yeah.
Which
I'm sure.
What I mean, this is fine, whatever. People can discuss this as much as they like and take from it whatever they like. But one of the comments, or the highest comment that's appearing here in response to this, I love this one. Somebody asking, does this make a digital game resellable? Because if what you're doing when you get a physical key, if you plug it in and it just attaches to your account and that key ceases to be useful, let me come back to the waste of plastic. I do agree it is a waste, but I don't think that's the problem here. I think if this makes the game not resellable, then this is Nintendo literally doing a bait and switch. Because they are presumably ostensibly selling a physical device that people expect to be able to hand off to a friend and let their friend play it or sell it, whatever. And if that's how it works, that's a problem. That's a really big problem.
Well, I just found IGN wrote an article. They said Nintendo has confirmed that those sleek new Switch 2 game cards won't always carry an actual game and will instead sometimes simply contain a key for a game download. And I think they said specifically the game key cards are physical cards that only contain a key to download your chosen game. This means there's no actual game data on the card. Do they actually? Okay, so I don't know if they actually say it. What I assume this works just like the games for Switch 1 that needed a download, which is like as long as the cartridge is in the console, you can play it.
Right.
No matter if it's resold, but I guess doesn't seem like we have exact confirmation of that yet.
Right, and I think there is going to be no exact confirmation until these are out. That being said, again, technically I don't know this, but I'm assuming that this screenshot that's in this tweet, I'm assuming that this is from Nintendo's own stuff. Again, The language does not leave that out. Or it doesn't leave that possible exception. It says very specifically the game itself isn't included on the card. Like, that's it. That does not say, oh, it might be, it depends on the situation. That would be a different story. This sounds like it's very clearly the card probably just has a very tiny, a very tiny chip in it that has a, like enough value to it that it, or enough data in it that it can contain like a hash key or something, and that's it. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe some of these will be basically full ROMs for smaller games where that would make sense. Though I would argue there's no reason they can't just sell you an SD card basically that has a huge amount of data on it. Whatever the case may be, I think the important question isn't, do I need to download all of it? The important question is, does it attach to your account, and will you be able to then resell the game? Yeah. If you cannot resell the game, I think that this is gross. Especially because they also charge an extra $10 for... I think it was an extra $10 to get the physical versions.
I think I tried to find that page everyone was screenshotting that showed like the price breakdown, and I couldn't find something like that in the US. So I don't know if that's every country.
Okay.
But yeah, if it is just like based on the card and not like doing anything to your account, like I don't think that really changes anything. There are already Switch games that made you download large amounts of the game before playing it. I know people bring up like the game preservation arguments here, like if it's not entirely on the card, then whenever those servers die, you'll also die, which I am sympathetic towards, but it's already all gonna like die at some point. Like just at a certain point, we hit a point where all these consoles check game licenses on a server, and those will eventually all die at some point. So I really think in terms of mainstream games, unless a game is released as DRM free, like on GOG or something, the only option for game preservation is piracy. Like that's, so we like, it doesn't, I think it gives too much credit to companies that are like, like Sony gets a lot more credit for releasing more of their games on physical media, but the PS5 disc drive authenticates with Sony servers when you plug it in. At some point, those servers will die. So I don't think that really fundamentally is better in any way. Like maybe at the end of life, Sony will push an update that says like, okay, we don't need to authenticate you anymore. This console's a decade old. We don't know if they're gonna do that. I would assume not. So I don't think like any of these companies are particularly better at preservation than the other, except the ones that are actually publishing their games DRM free, which is not most of them. So if it's just like a cartridge where you download the game, like I think it's kind of dumb, but that's fine. If it is like you said, I like basically a game, gift code. Like you can get them at the store now. Like when I go into my Target, there's like the little plastic gift cards for games you can get instead of a disc or something.
Yeah, I was literally about to bring that up as Carson asked or raised the topic of waste of plastic. Like the amount of plastic that's going to go into this, I think, is pretty trivial, and yeah, it's a little bit more than just buying somebody like a gift card kind of thing. So yeah, it's a little bit more wasteful, but I don't think that's too much worse than the million other things we already do that are substantially worse.
Yeah, I mean, I like the option for those cards because I used them a couple times. They're especially nice when you get discounts at a particular store that might not be there if you're buying a digital game straight on whatever storefront it's on. So. Carson said over-engineered. I mean, it could have just been a code. Yeah, like if the game cartridge ends up being like a weird thing that attaches to your online account, I would agree that's kind of a weird way to go about it.
I'll
Those
agree. I'll certainly agree with that. But let's be honest, it's Nintendo, so over engineering some sort of uh, gross way of controlling their market post purchase. That's just Nintendo. Like they figured out really gross ways to over engineer things long before I think any other company started getting gross. Um, so yeah, that's a bit of a given. Um, and yeah, it certainly is over engineered in other ways, but at the same time, uh, I it feels weird saying this, but from consider the audience for a moment. Certainly there will be people who get a Switch who are like myself and Corbin. Well, I think neither one of us is getting the Switch 2, at least for now. But consider the other, I don't know, 2/3 of the audience or half of the audience is going to be kids. And when I say kids, I obviously that span of ages goes pretty wide. Um, do you necessarily want to give, let's say, a 7-year-old? I don't know. I'm just kind of plucking an age out of the hat here. I'm assuming a 7-year-old is a pretty good target age for somebody who would very happily play on a Switch 2 and would play a lot of games on a Switch 2. Do you necessarily want to give them just a long, 20-digit code and say, here, enter this into the stores so that you can claim a game? No. You want aunt and uncle to just go buy a thing at the store. They can wrap it, show up, and hand it to the kid and be like, hey, here's the game. And the kid just rips open the package, pulls out the key card, and sticks it into the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is a better experience. And if all it does is it just contains some tiny chip with a code on it, yeah, I don't think that that's necessarily a gross over engineering. It's just, here's how you still put something into a store that you can sell a physical copy of. And the user base is, like I said, it's when your user base includes a lot of kids, a code isn't necessarily the experience you want to have them trying to do. That obviously could vary. I'm just trying to think of what is important or how does a product designer sit back and think, we need to make this for all these different possible audiences. And look, they all know full well that a big chunk of the game sales that they're going to do are aunt and uncle, grandma and grandpa, whatever, going to a store, buying a thing, and just bringing it for Christmas or bringing it for the holidays or whatever. Like, that is 100% where a huge chunk of their game sales come from. So yeah, I'm not worried about that aspect of it. Again, I think the resale or portability is a bigger, I don't want to say scandal, but kind of. That to me is the bigger red flag, is if they don't want to let people resell the physical game that somebody pays for, or especially pays extra for. That feels to me like bait and switch, because let's be honest, making these key cards and the packages they're in, the total cost is probably going to be in the realm of, say, 30 cents. But they're basically going to be selling them to people who think, oh, I bought the physical copy, I can now do with it as I choose. And those people are, I'm assuming, going to be extremely unhappy with with how little they get to choose what they can do with it.
Also, if I was a parent right now, my kid is not getting Mario Kart for $80.
Yeah, that too.
My kid is getting the 11-year-old Mario Kart or one of the Android handhelds with a lot of emulators on it.
Yes. And to that point, given the economy right now,
all those Android handhelds, guess what they have? Minecraft. And
yes,
some of them can run Fortnite.
yeah.
So, what more does a child need? Those are the two games.
Yeah. So, also, like I was saying earlier, I'm not really the target market for a Switch 2. Nor was I the target market for a Switch. I'm, again, not really interested in portable to the extent that I would make compromises to go portable. What I sooner care about is, out of all this, I want the console that's going to look better on the big TV. I want the console that is going to play better. I want the console that has, oh boy, I want the console that has better controllers. Dear Nintendo, suck it. But also, dear Microsoft, suck it. So yeah, to me, I'm far more inclined to go to the big consoles, or a PC. Let's be honest, a PC is also the more attractive option in many instances. So yeah, I feel like, sure, for parents, they want to get their kids something that they can send their kid to a different room to play their game. Or go to your room, go to the living room, whatever, or sure, go ahead, play your game at the dinner table. We don't really care. Like, yeah, the kid wants to be able to move around with the game. That's great. But man, right now, if I were a parent, I gotta be honest, a part of me, until you can see how things are going to shake out with the Switch, I think one of the first things I'd be looking at doing, just as a temporary stopgap, is maybe picking up a used Switch 1 and being like, yeah, here, kid, enjoy this for a while. We'll talk about a Switch 2 once it's been out like 6 months.
Well,
let's be honest, you're probably not going to be able to
One-
get a Switch 2 for about 6 months anyway, so.
Yeah, the Switch 1 is gonna stay in stock for a while probably, but yeah, like Switch 1 new or used, plus like a bunch of used games from eBay go wild.
Yeah, you can do a whole lot with an original Switch 1. Granted, we just finished talking about how it's well past end of life in terms of like game availability.
For games coming out now,
yeah,
there are a lot of older games that are fine. Like Mario Odyssey, great. Mario Kart 8, still great. Still play those. Those are fun.
Yeah. Counterpoint, to be fair, though, there will certainly also be plenty of kids who are going to scream bloody murder of, why on earth are you getting me this old POS? That's not what anyone else is getting. And they won't be wrong.
And to them, I'll say, where's $80?
I mean, you could instead say, where is the $450? Like, I'll cover the 80, you cover the 450. And then the kid pops up with like, yo, my TikTok account gets like 800 million views. Here you go. Here's a K. Get me whatever I ask for. And then you have to explain to the kid, yeah, but your TikTok account won't exist in a month. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I don't know why I had to wrap that back around, but
kids running a drop shipping empire. Yeah,
kids gooning for goop.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the Switch 2. is going to be pre-ordering in April, I believe. So
Yeah, I believe so.
yeah,
Yeah, something like
yeah.
April 8th or 9th. Um, and
I
Best Buy has announced that they will be open at midnight on launch day. If anyone gives a care about that.
right. I mean, like, if I really wanted one, I feel like I would do that just because
What, Best
that's
Buy
definitely
or?
no, just like buying something at midnight.
Hmm,
Because that is an era I totally skipped on. I didn't do that for anything. Like I know a lot of people my age do that for like new game console coming out, or like not really an
iPhones?
iPhones. iPhones never did the midnight thing, but yeah, the same thing of like you sit in a line for no reason, or like a big game coming out or something. So I never did that. If I cared about this, I might do that just for fun. Just, but I don't want to. I don't want to buy this at any time of the day right now.
So, I'll take a moment just to comment on that. Because certainly when I was a kid, uh, there were Magic the Gathering events where absolutely we like, because it was an event, we camped out in front of a store or something like that. And camped out in front of a store is a bit of a stretch in my case because I didn't ever actually do that part. But like I'd hang out for part of the night, you know, there'd be people barbecuing or whatever, and then around the time anyone would have gone to sleep, it's like, okay, I'm going home, and then I'll come back early in the morning and join everyone on the actual shopping. Um, and I've done like midnight showings of movies, which I would argue are actually, I mean, it's not the same kind of event, but it is. Um,
Sure, it's certainly adjacent at least.
yeah, so I did a lot. Well, I don't know if a lot is the right word, but I did a fair number of those things, and they were fun. I did, I did enjoy those, but the value of that really ran out pretty quick. Um, and I'm gonna go a step further and say I feel like waiting on a game console is a completely, wholly different experience than like waiting on a new set of Magic the Gathering cards uh, or a movie premiere. If you're waiting on a game console, who are you going to be hanging out with out front of that store? It's a bunch of people. Chances are you don't know. You can
Luigi,
bring
obviously.
yes, a Luigi. Uh, hey, let's be honest. A lot of people would like to hang out with the Luigi these days. Um, but uh, you know, waiting on those cards, the people that I was waiting with, it was all people that I hung out with at the same store. Waiting to see that movie, it was people that it was my friends, and we were all just going to go see a movie, and it happened to be a midnight thing, and we'd run into other people we probably knew. Waiting on a game console to come out, uh, uh Carson, yes, oh my god, yes, that too. You're going to be like, the crowd out
Oh,
front is going to be a bunch of 7-year-olds and their dads.
the most annoying children imaginable, and
Yup.
their Trump voting father.
Oh my god. You don't have to go
Gonna be
there,
really.
but I mean, you're
You
not
don't
wrong.
want to stand in line next to the Fortnite child with the dad standing next to him with the "Don't tread on me" Blue Lives Matter shirt. That's probably not a fun time. I,
Oh my
you're
god.
gonna you're gonna overhear some really racist things he's talking on the phone. Um,
I mean, I'm a little worried I'm
but
about to hear some racist things now. But anyway, um I kid ish. Um but yeah, it's the thing is, you're going to be hanging out front of a Best Buy with a bunch of people you've never met, and maybe one or two friends, maybe, and that's it. Like, it's not going to be the fun experience of waiting for other stuff. And plus you're going to run into all the worst, like, Nintendo stands, the ones who treat Nintendo the way that uh Apple Insider treats Apple. You know, they will forgive, and not just forgive, they will argue until they're blue in the face about how great Nintendo is. And you will want nothing to do with these people. This is just not the crowd I would want to hang outside of a store with. Um, yeah, that to me is the bigger weak point of that idea. The people will not be fun.
That's true. I guess I did have like a partial version of this when I saw. I don't know if it was. I think it was Infinity War. I don't think it was Endgame. I think it was Infinity War that I saw with a friend, and it was during the day, and it did feel a little bit exciting, because that theater was definitely full. And before then, it was like all of us, waiting the very long line to get in the theater with I'm sure like one person inside, like trying to get all the popcorn off the floor before the next wave of annoying people come in.
Having I've never worked at a movie theater, but having been sort of we'll say on friendly terms with the staff of a theater. No, it's actually usually two people. It's not one, it's usually two. But
better staff than your average McDonald's.
Very possibly, yeah. So, it'd be
like going to the Apple store during the Apple Vision Pro launch. That does seem well.
Okay, but you know who? There is one difference. One semi-critical difference. Half of the people who are there for the Apple Vision Pro launch are probably going to be YouTubers that very likely you watch. And that is both good and bad. Because I guarantee half of those people, because I met some of them, are really irritating. They are not fun people to be around. Sorry, it's the truth.
It does remind me of when I went to Google I/O and I found myself in the background of two people's videos. Oh wait, yeah, that was no. Actually, I think that was only one. I think that was Austin Evans for Google I/O and E3. I think I don't remember exactly. I know for a fact I have a picture that I took at E3 of Austin Evans recording a video, and I took like a selfie with him in the corner. I thought it was funny at the time. And then valid. I think at Google I/O it was he uploaded I saw him at the event, but I didn't like take a picture. And then later I saw his video and I saw me like in the distant, the background blur, like, oh, there I am, Gary, Sorry.
Yeah.
Two misconnections with Austin Evans. I don't know what he's up to these days.
Yeah, but the Vision Pro launch, I would be shocked if you wouldn't just be there with like the 20 YouTubers in your local area that are all, just trying to get their content filler for the next month. And some of those people you might actually consider cool and want to hang out with. I'm pretty sure MKBHD got his hand delivered by an Apple engineer, but the rest of the YouTubers, if you like them, great. But I guarantee you would definitely run into a few that are just total D-bags.
Especially, they're buying the Vision Pro. They're going to be annoying. They're
no,
going to be really annoying about it.
No, they're borrowing the Vision Pro.
Right.
A lot of those people returned them. Yeah. But yeah, anyway. Look, midnight events are great. Honestly, they are. They were one of the things that I did enjoy when I went to them for the right stuff. But that's the key thing. It's got to be for the right things. It's got to be the right crowd. And maybe I'm wrong, but I you know what? Honestly, I think Carson hit the nail on the head. 7-year-olds and their dads. It's a bunch of people that you don't know. you don't want to hang out with, you don't care about. That they're it's yeah. If anything, you're probably actually going to see a big area where a bunch of kids are encouraged to play together, and by play I mean again, they're going to be young kids, so they're not going to be the type that you're going to be hanging out with.
Right, ideally.
Sure hope not.
So yeah, on that note, that's the Switch 2.
Yes. That's the Switch 2. Don't buy one because the people who will be getting it first suck. No, kidding. Ish. Anyway, yeah, so I think we've well established neither of us are going to get one, or at least not anytime soon.
Maybe in a couple years. If there's like a new 3D Mario game that looks good, that could tempt me.
Yes.
I did really like Mario Odyssey on the Switch. That was very good.
And again, really quickly, if you're interested in hearing some of these takes and possibly some others, go check out Corbin's article on How to Geek about why he's not sold on the Switch 2. And maybe it will maybe it will even more thoroughly discourage you from getting one. So yeah, I believe that is all we have, which we managed to, seeing as we only actually did 4 topics and made it to 2.5 hours, I'd say we filled time. And we did a good job of it. We are good podcasters and streamers. So before we go, Corbin, you know the routine. Anything you'd like to pitch, plug, talk about?
Not really. I did roll out a couple updates for a photo stack recently. I'll put a link to that in the YouTube chat. That's my batch image editor. There were some bugs that needed fixing, like it's just been broken in Safari for I don't know how long. I don't know when that started. I definitely tested whatever the last version was in Safari, but something broke. But it's fixed now. I rewrote some of the code for importing images. Works with HEIC images now. If you have a web browser that supports it, which right now is just Safari, no one else cares. But all the other fun stuff works if your web browser supports it. WebP, AVIF. You can still drop in zip files and it'll extract everything. Same thing with Microsoft Office files, because fun fact, Microsoft Office files are just zip files. So that's a little 2-for-1 deal I got on the unzipping code.
Hooray.
Yeah.
All right. So cool. Yay for updates. And let's see. Trying to think if there's anything I really have to talk about. I don't think so. Not that it's super exciting or interesting, but come this Saturday, I believe what is, at least for now, going to be my final hardware review at AP is publishing. It's for a giant 12-bay NAS, network attached storage device. And this is basically just because reviews at AP are more or less kind of over, except for like flagship phones. So yeah, I don't think anybody really cares about this, but if you feel so inspired to read my final review, that will be happening. And that also assumes that it won't be rescheduled before whatever date it is. But yeah, so that's that. And I'll have I am going to be trying to work on another big project. I will be sharing more details about that once I actually get a little bit further into it. But it goes along with something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I think some people can probably guess to some extent what this is. And yeah, hopefully I will be sharing more very soon. But with that,
Buying a Switch too.
oh, Carson, no, I'm not leaving AP, at least not right away. No, it's just AP's hardware reviews are effectively, like I said, they're more or less dead for now. This may be a short-term thing. It may be a long-term thing. I don't know. But they're basically going to scale back very heavily on reviews so that only really like, I'm guessing it's only really going to be like the top tier Samsung phones, basically a Galaxy S phone, the Folds, and the Pixel phones are probably going to be about the only reviews that are happening at AP. Maybe they'll do, I'm guessing like maybe they'll do like the earbuds from those same companies. They might do some of the other products, but yeah, as at least the decision as of not too long ago was reviews are more or less on pause. So yeah, I don't have any new reviews coming in the pipeline. However, that's not to say I won't still be working with some hardware manufacturers, but that's a separate discussion. One that fits in roughly with that other project that I was referencing. So hopefully we'll be, like I said, sharing more about that in the coming weeks.
Android please hit by Trump tariffs.
25% tariff on bad ads. Man, if only.
It's like it's a tariff, but it's on words. So you have to increase the word count, and then there's reciprocal tariffs that further increase the word count.
You're giving me that cringy feeling that I can feel parts of my body wanting to twitch. Uncontrollable twitching brought on by the terror of word counts. Which to this day it's still funny to me because you are suffering from the demands to have more words, whereas I'm constantly trying to fit words into a smaller space, which is such a weird dichotomy of what we're going through. Oh, anyway,
would you consider, can I sublease your words for art?
I mean, if you'll
like
pay,
just,
yes.
If
yes,
you
absolutely.
have a surplus of review words, I don't think it really matters what it's about. I just kind of need them to shove in places, an article that doesn't have quite enough words. I'll just take something from a random review of yours. I don't really care. Just put at the bottom. It's fine.
I mean,
it's genuine, authentic, human-written words.
As weird as this is going to sound, I believe technically you're legally allowed to do that.
Probably.
Well, wait.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you are. For the same reasons you could, I believe, use photos I've uploaded.
Yeah.
Because,
probably.
Yeah, I think you actually are legitimately allowed to do this under the terms of your contract. Oh boy.
Carson said, "Do I buy the dip on AP stock?" No.
Oh man. This conversation's gone weird. Okay, so with that, this weekend I'll be back for some Overwatch. I was about to say Borderlands. Wouldn't that be great, man? I'm looking forward to Borderlands 4. Anyway, but I'll be playing some Overwatch, probably some Rivals. We'll see if someone comes by and wants to play. And let's see. Of course, we will be back next week for another RambleCast. Same times as usual. That's generally the plan. Of course, huge thanks to supporters of the channel: Carson, David, Austin, Diablo, and Curvy Mermaid. Y'all are awesome. And for those who would like to support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. Of course, as always, huge thanks to those who came by to hang out in the chat, because it's been a good conversation tonight. Always love to see that. And yeah, I think that is about it. So I hope everyone has an excellent rest of their week, and weekend to come, and I'll see you in the next one. Good night, everybody.